You know, some of the most famous drugs in the world have absolutely wild origin stories, and today we're diving into one of the biggest. We're talking about a drug that started out as a treatment for heart pain, then became a global sensation for something, well, completely different, and now it's being investigated for a secret identity that might just be its most important one yet, as a potential weapon in the fight against cancer. It's a heck of a story that begins, like so many great discoveries, with a total accident.
And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures the story we're about to get into. It's the classic tale of scientific serendipity, right? Where brilliant people are looking for one thing, but they're smart enough to recognize when they stumble upon something else, something completely unexpected, and maybe even world-changing.
So let's rewind the clock. We're in the 1980s, and scientists at Pfizer are working their tails off on a new drug. The target? Angina. That's that nasty kind of chest pain you get from reduced blood flow to the heart. Their whole goal was to find something that could relax the blood vessels and just get everything flowing smoothly again. The drug they were tinkering with was what's called a PDE5 inhibitor. And the key mechanism here, the whole point of the drug, was to cause vasodilation. It's a simple idea, really. If you can widen the blood vessels around the heart, more blood gets through, and boom, the angina pain should go away. Sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
Well, here's the twist. When they got to clinical trials, the drug was just okay at treating angina. Not great, but the male volunteers in the study, they started reporting a very consistent and let's just say a very noticeable side effect. The drug was definitely causing vasodilation, all right, just not exactly where the scientists thought it would. And just like that, from a happy accident, Viagra was born.
But wait, the story is far from over. In fact, this is where it takes a truly fascinating turn. Researchers have now uncovered a whole new chapter for these PDE5 inhibitors, and it's taking them from the bedroom straight into the oncology lab. So you gotta be asking, how on earth does a drug for erectile dysfunction have any connection to cancer? Well, the whole thing starts with this one crucial observation. Scientists noticed that the exact same enzyme that Viagra targets, that PDE5 enzyme, is unusually active in a whole bunch of different cancer types. We're talking breast cancer, oral cancer, thyroid, liver cancer, the list goes on. The enzyme is basically in overdrive in these tumors. So what exactly is this PDE5 enzyme? You can think of it like a rogue worker inside your cells. Its normal job is to break down another substance. But in cancer cells, this worker just goes haywire. It starts working way too fast, destroying that other substance way too quickly. And that hyperactivity, that's a huge part of the problem.
And this is the good guy substance that PDE5 is destroying. It's called cGMP. I love this analogy from the source material. cGMP is like your body's own internal police force. Its job is to keep order. It tells cells that have gone rogue to self-destruct, that's a process called apoptosis, and it slams the brakes on that out-of-control growth that is the hallmark of cancer. It is your natural, built-in tumor fight.
Okay, so this is where it all comes together. Look at the left side of the screen. That's the problem. You've got high levels of that rogue PDE5 enzyme, and it's just wiping out the cGMP police force. The result? The tumor grows unchecked. But now look at the right. You bring in a PDE5 inhibitor, something like Viagra, and it blocks that rogue enzyme. It protects the cGMP. This lets your police force build its numbers back up, slow down the tumor's growth, and start restoring order. Pretty cool, right?
But believe it or not, that's not all it does. This direct attack on the tumor is just part one of the story. It turns out these drugs are a double threat because they also help unleash your body's own defenses against cancer in two incredibly clever ways.
Okay, first up, it gives your immune system a major helping hand. See, cancers are sneaky. They create these things called suppressor cells, MDSCs for short, that act like a cloaking device. They basically make the tumor invisible to your immune system's attack dogs, the T cells, but when a PDE5 inhibitor shows up, it blocks those suppressor cells. It's like ripping the blinders off your immune system, letting your T cells finally see the cancer and go on the attack. This is a huge deal for modern immunotherapies.
And the second way it helps is by making chemotherapy work better. A lot of cancer cells have this clever defense mechanism, tiny little pumps on their surface that act like bouncers at a club. A chemo drug gets inside the cell to do its job, and these pumps just grab it and toss it right back out. Well, it turns out PDE5 inhibitors can block these pumps. They trap the chemo inside the cancer cell where it can actually work.
So, the theory is fantastic. I mean, it seems to attack cancer directly, boost the immune system, and help out chemotherapy. But what does the actual evidence say?
Let's break down the research for a few specific types of cancer, because it's really important to know that the results are a mix. Some are promising, and some are, well, still up in the air.
For leukemia, the signs have been really promising for a while now. I mean, way back in 2003, lab studies showed these drugs could kill chronic lymphocytic leukemia cells in every single sample they tested. That's 100%. And more recently, they've seen similar success against another type, acute myeloid leukemia. So this is definitely a hot area for research.
The news for colorectal cancer is also looking pretty positive. A big analysis that pulled together a bunch of studies found a significant link between using the drug and having a lower risk of developing colorectal cancer and those precancerous polyps. And remember that immune-boosting trick? Other studies showed it helped power up immunotherapy against colorectal tumors. It really seems to be a great team player.
Now, for glioblastoma, a really aggressive and tough-to-treat brain cancer, the drug plays a totally unique role. See, your brain has this defense shield called the blood-brain barrier. It's great at keeping bad stuff out, but it also blocks chemotherapy. Well, research in rats found that PDE5 inhibitors can temporarily make this barrier leaky, basically opening a gate to let the chemo drugs get in and attack the tumor. That is a potential game changer.
Okay, now we get to prostate cancer. And this is where the picture gets a bit more complicated. On its own, the drug doesn't really seem to affect tumor growth much at all. But when you pair it with a chemo drug called doxorubicin, it makes the chemo work better. And as a cool bonus, it even helps protect the heart from some of that chemo's nasty side effects. So the key here is it seems to be a helper, not the hero.
And we see a really similar story with breast cancer. There's some definite promise for maybe preventing it or treating it in the very early stages. But for more advanced, later stage cancer, the evidence is pretty mixed. Once again, it seems to work best when it's teamed up with chemotherapy, which again suggests its future is probably as part of a combo treatment.
And now, we have to talk about the biggest note of caution, melanoma. This is where things get really complex and, honestly, a little scary. In one study, mice with melanoma actually had a big survival boost. Great. But at higher doses, the male mice had worse survival rates. This is a huge red flag that the effects could be wildly different depending on the dose and even your sex. It's a stark reminder that more is not always better and that we have so much more to learn.
So, when you step back and look at all of this, what do you see? You see this incredible picture of both amazing promise and really some necessary precaution. The science is genuinely exciting, but we also have to stay grounded in reality and safety.
And part of that reality is remembering this is still a powerful drug. It has its own list of well-known side effects. Things like headaches, flushing, dizziness, muscle aches. They're pretty common. They're usually not severe, but they're absolutely part of the equation when you're thinking about using a medication for something new.
Which, of course, brings us to the ultimate question. After everything we've looked at, the crazy accidental discovery, the clever science, the mixed bag of evidence, what's the verdict? Is this little blue pill really a future cancer drug?
And the honest answer for right now is not yet. What we have here is an incredibly promising tool for researchers. It's opening up exciting new ways to make things like chemotherapy and immunotherapy better. But, and this is a big but, it is not a proven, ready-to-go treatment for patients. The biggest takeaway here is that while this is an exciting frontier in cancer research, this is absolutely not a do-it-yourself treatment. As always, the most important conversation you can have about your health is the one you have with your doctor.